1. Final whistle. I watched a local football match in a school playing ground. As I sat down, I asked one of the boys what the score was. With a proud smile, he replied, "They are leading us 3-0. Really? I have to say you don't look discouraged." Discouraged? The boy asked with a puzzled look. Why should I be discouraged when the referee has not blown the final whistle? Truly, I didn't have an answer to this question. As I got back home that night, his question became a course in my stay in life indeed. Life is like a game. Why should you be discouraged when your referee, the Almighty, has not blown the final whistle on your life? The truth is that as long as there is life, nothing is impossible, and it is never too late for you. Half-time is not full-time, and his calendar is not man's. Don't blow the whistle on yourself. Have an awesome life and with less stress. 2. Nature. One day, all the disciples went to their master and said, "Master, Master, we all are going on a pilgrimage." "Master, why you want to go on a pilgrimage trip?"
Disciples, so that we can improve our devotion. Master, okay. Then do me a favor. Please take this Kerala, bitter gourd, a kind of vegetable which is very bitter in taste, along with you, and wherever you go and whichever temple you visit, place it in the altar of the deity, take the blessings and bring it back.
So, not only the disciples, but the Kerala also went on pilgrimage, temple to temple. And finally, when they came back, the master said, "Cook that Kerala and serve it to me." The disciples cooked it and served it to the master. After having the first bite, the master said, "Surprising." Disciples, what's so surprising? Master, even after the pilgrimage the Kerala is still bitter. How come? Disciples, but that's the very nature of the Kerala, Master. Master, that's what I am saying. Unless you change your nature, pilgrimage will not make any difference. So, you and I, if we do not change ourselves, no teacher or guru can make a difference in our lives. If you think positively, sound becomes music. Movement becomes dance. Smile becomes laughter. Mind becomes meditative, and life becomes a celebration. 3. Wet pants. Come with me to a third-grade classroom. There is a 9-year-old kid sitting at his desk, and all of a sudden, there is a puddle between his feet and the front of his pants are wet. He thinks his heart is going to stop because he cannot possibly imagine how this has happened. It's never happened before, and he knows that when the boys find out, he will never hear the end of it. When the girls find out, they'll never speak to him again as long as he lives. The boy believes his heart is going to stop. He puts his head down and prays this prayer: "Dear God, this is an emergency. I need help now. 5 minutes from now I'm dead meat." He looks up from his prayer, and here comes the teacher with a look in her eyes that says he has been discovered. As the teacher is walking toward him, a classmate named Susie is carrying a goldfish bowl that is filled with water. Susie trips in front of the teacher and inexplicably dumps the bowl of water in the boy's lap. The boy pretends to be angry, but all the while is saying to himself, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord." Now all of a sudden, instead of being the object of ridicule, the boy is the object of sympathy. The teacher rushes him downstairs and gives him gym shorts to put on while his pants dry out. All the other children are on their hands and knees cleaning up around his desk. The sympathy is wonderful. But as life would have it, the ridicule that should have been his has been transferred to someone else, Susie. She tries to help, but they tell her to get out. "You've done enough, you clumsy girl." Finally, at the end of the day, as they are waiting for the bus, the boy walks over to Susie and whispers, "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" Susie whispers back, "I wet my pants once too." May God help us see the opportunities that are always around us to do good. Remember, just going to a place of worship doesn't make you a good person any more than standing in your garage makes you a car. Each and every one of us is going through tough times right now, but God is getting ready to bless you in a way that only He can. Keep the faith. Remember, growing older is mandatory. Growing up is optional. We make a living by what we get, we make a life by what we give. 4. Bring potato chips. A little boy wanted to meet God. He knew it was a long trip to where God lived. So he packed his suitcase with a bag of potato chips and a 6-pack of soft drink and started his journey. When he had gone about 3 blocks, he met an old man. He was sitting in the park, just staring at some pigeons. The boy sat down next to him and opened his suitcase. He was about to take a drink from his bottle when he noticed that the old man looked hungry, so he offered him some chips. He gratefully accepted it and smiled at him. His smile was so pretty that the boy wanted to see it again, so he offered him a soft drink. Again, he smiled at him. The boy was delighted. They sat there all afternoon eating and smiling, but they never said a word. As twilight approached, the boy realized how tired he was and he got up to leave. But before he had gone more than a few steps, he turned around, ran back to the old man, and gave him a hug. He gave him his biggest smile ever. When the boy opened the door to his own house a short time later, his mother was surprised by the look of joy on his face. She asked him, "What did you do today that made you so happy?" He replied, "I had lunch with God." But before his mother could respond, he added, "You know what? He's got the most beautiful smile I've ever seen." Meanwhile, the old man, also radiant with joy, returned to his home. His son was stunned by the look of peace on his face, and he asked, "Dad, what did you do today that made you so happy?" He replied, "I ate potato chips in the park with God. However, before his son responded, he added, "You know, he's much younger than I expected." Too often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. People come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Embrace all equally. Have lunch with God. Bring chips. 5. Faith. A businessman was late for his flight. He reached the boarding gate just before it closed. Sweating and out of breath, he scanned his boarding pass at the counter and quickly made his way to the plane. Arriving at his seat, he greeted his companions for the next few hours, a middle-aged woman sitting at the window, and a little girl sitting on the aisle seat. After stowing his bag above, he took his place between them. After the flight took off, he began a conversation with the little girl. She appeared to be about the same age as his daughter and was busy with her coloring book. He asked her a few usual questions, such as her age, 8, her hobbies, cartoons and drawing, as well as her favorite animal. Horses are pretty, but she just loved cats. He found it strange that such a young girl would be traveling alone, but he kept his thoughts to himself and decided to keep an eye on her to make sure she was okay. About an hour into the flight, the plane suddenly began experiencing extreme turbulence. The pilot came over the PA system and told everyone to fasten their seat belts and remain calm, as they had encountered rough weather. Several times over the next half hour the plane made drastic dips and turns, shaking all the while. Some people began crying, and many, like the woman in the window seat, were praying intently. The man was sweating and clenching his seat as tightly as he could, and exclaimed, "Oh my God!" with each increasingly violent shake of the plane. Meanwhile, the little girl was sitting quietly beside him in her seat. Her coloring book and crayons were put away neatly in the seat pocket in front of her, and her hands were calmly resting on her legs. Incredibly, she didn't seem worried at all. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the turbulence ended. The pilot came on a few minutes later to apologize for the bumpy ride and to announce that they would be landing soon. As the plane began its descent, the man said to the little girl, "You are just a little girl, but I have never met a braver person in all my life. Tell me, dear, how is it that you remained so calm while all of us adults were so afraid?" Looking him in the eyes, she said, "My father is the pilot, and he's taking me home." Moral of story: if we recognize the power of faith, we won't look for miracles. May this beautiful story inspire us and brighten our path. 6. Elephant and Friends. One day an elephant wandered into a forest in search of friends. He saw a monkey on a tree. "Will you be my friend?" asked the elephant. Replied the monkey, "You are too big. You cannot swing from trees like me." Next, the elephant met a rabbit. He asked him to be his friends. But the rabbit said, "You are too big to play in my burrow." Then the elephant met a frog. "Will you be my friend?" he asked. "How can I?" asked the frog. You are too big to leap about like me." The elephant was upset. He met a fox next. "Will you be my friend?" he asked the fox. The fox said, "Sorry, sir, you are too big." The next day, the elephant saw all the animals in the forest running for their lives. The elephant asked them what the matter was. The bear replied, "There is a deer in the forest. He's trying to gobble us all up." The animals all ran away to hide. The elephant wondered what he could do to solve everyone in the forest. Meanwhile, the tiger kept eating up whoever he could find. The elephant walked up to the tiger and said, "Please, Mr. Tiger, do not eat up these poor animals." "Mind your own business," growled the tiger. The elephant has no choice but to give the tiger a hefty kick. The frightened tiger ran for his life. The elephant ambled back into the forest to announce the good news to everyone. All the animals thanked the elephant. They said, "You are just the right size to be our friend." Moral: pride has a fall.